Oh, Susan's here. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tanya and You, Part 2. We begin now with Chapter 18. We've spent many months the first half of Tanya, and now we come to the Part 2 of Tanya, Chapter 18. It's almost like a new revelation. Option 2, a new path. It's a fascinating idea. The gist of it you've heard many times. The Tanya introduces the idea of a hidden love, what it means to be Jewish, how to tap into this hidden love, and we develop this idea over the next 8 chapters. But we begin with chapter 18, just to kind of bring you up to speed where we're at, where the Tanya is holding in the ideas of the Tanya up to chapter 18. We had a few week break. We had Pesach. Um, we left off. Tanya introduces the Beinuni, right? Obviously, the word Beinuni we heard many times. The person who has complete self mastery. Not to say that a person has transformed their inner self. They still have the same temptations and desires like anyone else, but they are in full control. Every single day, they are at their best. They have full control over themselves. They never slip. They never fall in. They never give in to that temptation. They don't have moments of weakness. They're always at their game, which is it's the tall order. How is that done? That's the Beinoni. And then Tanya argues that the idea of a Beinoni is midas kol adam. Every single person has the ability to become a Beinoni. So the Tanya kind of gave us a few ideas, talks about the daily inspiration every single morning to focus and understand what is my mission today. We spoke about the importance of being emotionally involved. That if it's just thought, speech, and action, which is the ultimate goal, but there has to be a drive behind it. The why, the excitement, the love for God, the awe and reverence for God. There has to be an emotion behind it. How do we bring emotion? Through contemplation. When we contemplate on the greatness of God, we develop an emotional relationship with God. And even if we're not able to fully develop a full-fledged a love for God, at least there should be an emotional appreciation for God. That is basically the idea that was developed over the last few chapters, chapter 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That was the idea. Okay. This is all track number 1. This is what Tanya says. This is how to be a Beinoni, the guide to be a Beinoni. In chapter 18, we give you track 2. Option 2. And option 2, the Tanya says, you know what? This is great. Option 1 is great. But I have some questions on option 1. Is it truly attainable and easily attainable to every single person? Going back to the original verse that the Tanya is based on. This idea, this relationship with God is not only attainable, not only is it near to you, it is very near. It's very close. Wait, you're telling me I should contemplate on the greatness of God? Some people may argue and say, that's just not me. It's too abstract to start thinking about greatness of God, to start contemplating I can't do that. I should develop a relationship because an emotional relationship because of that. It's just too hard for me. This technique to develop something new, a new feeling that I don't have, it's possible, but it isn't easy. Or perhaps it isn't always easy. So here the Tanya says, you're right. So let me give you another option. And this is the idea of tapping into the hidden love that we already have. We don't have to develop anything new. We already have it within us. And the Tanya develops this in a beautiful, beautiful way. Starts only in chapter 18, but it continues in 19, etc. And in the language of the Tanya, we talk about this hidden love that we have within us is a inheritance that we receive from our Zadis. Each and every one of us, we had a Zadi. Our Zadi was Abraham, Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu. These are our grandfathers, our forefathers. And we have an inheritance from them. What is this? It is an innate love for God, which is something that we have to fully understand, because what do we inherit? I could inherit from my grandfather. I could, he left things. He left money. He left a home. He left a car. He left documents. He left pictures. He left, right? He left things for others. We also inherit certain type of character trait, perhaps, from our parents, our grandparents. Oh, you see this person just like his father, just like his mother. Oh, I just recently for Pesach, I was in Toronto, and I was waiting outside the hallway outside the shul after davening one day, waiting for Chaimushka, waiting for the children, and someone that knew me from when I was a child um, comes out and says, "That child, I knew right away it's your child. I just saw the child, the way they're acting, the way they look, exactly just like the family." So, right, we inherit certain things from our grandparents, from our parents, our ancestors. But a love for something, the subject of our love, we inherit that to someone else, right? Because I love a certain music, I love jazz. Does that mean my great grandchildren are going to love jazz? I mean, you have to develop this love. You have to appreciate it. It's not just there naturally. The Tanya says that our love for God, the subject of our love, we have a love for God. This comes down to us through the forefathers. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they had a love for God. Because of that, each and every Jew born is born with this love. This is what the Tanya says. So the Tanya explains. The forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, they were unique. We call them the chariot of God. Just like a chariot is fully like subjugated to the rider, so too um, so too they were fully dedicated and devoted to Hashem, to God, so much so that this became who they are. This truly became who they are. They changed themselves. They almost like genetically mutated themselves. They are someone different. This is part of who they are. It's not like a career where this is what I do. This is what I Their love for God became so much ingrained in them that literally now they inherit this to their children. Just like the genetics of a human being is inherited from parent to child, the genetics of a cucumber goes from one cucumber to the next cucumber. If you go trace back 1,000 generations, it was a cucumber, the seed of a cucumber. So too, the human being, the Jewish human being that we are grandchildren of Avraham Avinu, his love became so innate, because part of his genetics, part of his DNA, that he actually inherits this to all of his children and grandchildren. They say the story where people decided we're going to climb Mount Everest. We're going to climb the mountain, big, huge mountain. It may take months. Who knows how long it's going to take? It's very, very difficult. There's seasons, there's snow, there's ice, there's heat, there's pot. It's just a difficult, difficult trek. But we're gonna do it. They take the training, what they need for it, and after months and months of training and months of actual climbing, they finally get to the top of the mountain. Wow. You have a flag, you have all the things that they're gonna sign, they take pictures. Oh, we're on top of the mountain. We made history. Climb the mountain. They come there. You know who they find there? They find there a young child. A young child. Child, tell me, how did you get here? How did you climb the mountain at such a young age? Child says, climb the mountain. I didn't climb the mountain. I was born here. I was born on the mountain. And that's what the Tanya tells us. We were born on the mountain. We were born with this innate love that we have from our parents and grandparents. So when we believe in God, it's not another layer over our identity. It's who we are. And that's why obviously, we find this fascinating phenomenon where we find Jewish people who are non-believers, but they're born Jewish, and they'll tell you they're a non-believer, but then they are a believer. It's like very confusing. Do I believe or don't I believe? Before Pesach, we were giving matzah, hamish mura matzah. We're giving out the community, and I come to a certain person who I met not too long ago, and he identifies as a completely secular, maybe even atheist Jewish person. I mean, Jewish person by birth, but I mean, totally, totally uninvolved to extreme. I mean, not Yom Kippur. I mean, nothing like nothing Jewish other than born Jewish, and a lack of interest, like a complete lack of interest in anything Jewish. Well, before Pesach, of course, you got to give him matzah. So I come to his door, knock on his door, and first thing he asks, "Why are you here? Like, what is this all about?" I said, "It's Pesach. We're giving everyone some ham and shmur matzah. So it's Pesach, and hopefully you'll be able to sit down, mat at the seder, and have some matzah." And he says, "I'm so surprised that you would give me matzah. Like, why me? I'm not like a Jewishly involved or believer in Judaism." And I said, "Well, it doesn't make you less Jewish. It doesn't make you less Jewish. This is who you are." He actually was very appreciative of getting the matzah, and I haven't followed up with him since Pesach, but I hope he had some of the matzah on the night of Pesach. If you're born Jewish, you have this within you. It's a DNA it's a Jewish DNA. In other words, we have changed from being solely physical human beings. What the forefathers have done through their extreme dedication and subjugation to God, that they have incorporated in their DNA, in their physical DNA, a spiritual element to it. This spiritual element, this love, this belief in God is part of who they are. And you can't separate it. You can't separate the Jew from his, even though it's maybe what we call a unconscious belief, a subconscious belief, but it's there. It's who we are. George Rohr, one of the great Jewish philanthropists of the time, many years ago started a new minyan he called it a beginner's minyan on the high holidays in Manhattan. And he was someone that was very much influenced by Chabad, by the Rebbe. So he spoke to the Rebbe, and came with a very proud report. I mean, who wouldn't be happier than the Rebbe to hear that there's a beginner's minyan for people who perhaps wouldn't be going to shul otherwise in Manhattan for your Shana Yom Kippur. It's amazing, right? So he thought he'll get a big smile and a big yasher koach from the Rebbe. So he comes to the Rebbe. This is on video, and he tells the Rebbe, "We started a new minyan in Manhattan for Jews who have no background." And the Rebbe says, like, seemingly the Rebbe didn't hear exactly what he said. So he repeated himself. We started a minyan for Jews who have no background. The Rebbe says. So he repeats the third time. The Rebbe said, no background. Every Jew is a son of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a daughter of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. What do you mean we have no background? You got to change the way you see another Jew. They may not be living up to their background. It's a different story. But no background. Where do you come from? When you no background? Who doesn't have a background? A Jew has a very important background. And this is what the Tanya is saying. We will all have this background. We all receive this from our forefathers. So that's the beginning of chapter 18. The chapter gets a little Kabbalistic. If you read it inside, it goes through the various spiritual worlds. The point that chapter 18 is trying to make is that no matter your soul, a higher, a lofty soul, a lower soul, every soul has this equally. This is the equalizer. We all have this. And more specifically, this idea, this innate belief, emunah, love and trust and belief that we have naturally within us, it is referred to as the level of chachma of our soul. And I think it's important to understand why we are referring to this as chachma. If you remember, going back to chapter 3, we spoke about the 10 powers of our soul. There's the 3 intellectual powers, and then there's the 7 emotional powers. Here in chapter 18, we break it down, not 3 and 7, but 1 and 9. 9 of them is our powers of the soul. It's what I feel, what I understand. It's to a degree subjective. It's about me, my relationship, my feelings, or my understanding, which even though intellect is really an objective idea, but every person's understanding is different. My understanding might not be exactly the same as your understanding. But then there's Chochmah. Chochmah is the first, and it's number 1. What's the idea of Chochmah? If you remember from chapter 3, Chochmah, we say, is that original flash of, wow, I think I got an idea in mind before it's developed. In other words, like this. You're playing chess. It's a difficult game. You're playing against someone who knows what they're doing. You're not playing against my 5-year-old. You're playing someone who's a master. And it's a difficult game. And you're looking at the board and you're thinking, what could I do? I need something. And finally you get, I got it. I got it. What is it? What is it? Tell me. I don't know yet. I have to figure this out. I can't even articulate what it is, but I feel like I something's there. That flash is called chacham. When you're studying something deeply intellectual and you're trying to wrap your head around it, you're trying to understand it, and there's a block, you're not getting it. You're studying a deep idea in the Talmud. You're studying Tanya, and you're just not. It's not there. Something's missing. You can't wrap your head around it. And suddenly you say, oh, I got it. I got it. What is it? Tell it to me. Give me a class. Give me a lecture. I don't have the words for it yet. I haven't developed it yet in my own mind, but I feel like there was this flash of, oh, something's there. That's Chachma. It's Chachma. It's not something that I understand yet. So it's not me. It's like this idea where I'm able to, takes humility, to put myself aside almost and allow the flash to come in. Allow something greater than me to control me for a moment, to give me that little energy, that little idea, that little flash. That's chachma. In Hebrew, the word chachma comes from the word koach ma, which means it's a certain power that it's ma. What is it? I can't even define it. It's not developed yet. So in the context of chapter 18, we refer to it, it's the idea where a person is able to move away from themselves for a moment to allow something greater than themselves to come into their life. That's chachma. And that is the relationship. This is this idea that we have this innate relationship with God, this love for God, this emunah, this trust in God. That's the idea. It's our chachma. And because it's our chachma, therefore, it's above intellect. It's belief that goes beyond our understanding. Because understanding is bina, is already power of the soul number two. That's already my understanding. It's my existence. It's already my ego. It's and subjective. Chachma is not me. Chachma is something above me, greater than myself. That's chachma. And that is where emunah comes in. Something which is above intellect. It's just there. It's innate. I can't explain it. I can't explain to you why I believe. I just believe. Talking about giving out matzah before Pesach. So you give someone matzah, they get upset. Even though generally everyone's happy, right? Of course, who's not happy to get something, some matzah for Pesach? Of course, we're all happy. But one person was upset. Why are you upset? Well, why are you coming to my door? I'm an unbeliever. I don't believe in all this stuff. Tell me, do you believe in aliens? No, I don't believe in it. Are you upset about it? No, I'm not upset about it. Why, when I talk to you about Judaism, about God, you get so upset? But when I talk to you about aliens or anything else that you don't believe in, you're not getting upset. You know why? Because deep down, deep down, something tells me I do believe it. And it makes me uncomfortable. So don't talk. I'm like running away from myself. Don't talk to me about it. It's like the Jew who came to the Tzemach Tzedek, one of the great Chabad Rebbes, and says, Rebbe, what should I do? I don't believe. I feel like I'm having doubts in my belief in God. I feel like I don't fully believe in God. So the Rebbe says, what's the problem? Okay, so you don't believe in God. What's the problem? He says, what do you mean? But I'm Jewish. So the Rebbe says, okay, you're in good hands. If you're getting nervous that you don't believe in God, that means what does that mean? That means that deep down you do believe in God. Okay, so it's not fully developed in your mind. You can't articulate this belief. Okay, you could study, you could think about it, you'll get there, but you have it. See, in in English, when we say belief, it's almost like I don't know it, I just believe it. It's not as strong as actually knowing something. For example, if I tell you, um, the building down the block is on fire, do you believe me? Well, you seem like a trustworthy guy. I believe you. I believe you. I walk outside. Whoa, I see the fire. Wow, this building's on fire. Now I ask you, do you believe it's on fire or do you know it's on fire? Oh, I know it's on fire. Now the belief is out the window. I don't need to believe anymore, and I know. Meaning, belief is only when I'm not able to know for certain. I don't see it with my own eyes. I haven't experienced it. So, the second best is belief in it. But if I know it, if I could intellectually explain it, that's even better than belief. But in the Tanya and in the Torah, it's exact opposite. Belief is so much deeper than intellect, than knowing. Maybe a good analogy would be: do you love your children? Of course, I love my children. Tell me why. Explain to me, why do you love your children? Are you Meshuggah? I can talk to you from today till tomorrow, explaining the rationale behind love of a parent to a child, but that's only going to explain the externalities of it. Why do I love my child? It's my child. That's it. No explanations. Just because. That's that's the best thing. That's the deepest expression of a parent-child relationship. Just because they're my child, therefore I love them. So sometimes belief in something could be greater and deeper than an intellectual relationship. And this is what the Tanya says, that the belief that we have from our forefathers, the belief in God, is chachma. It's that power of the soul that is beyond intellect. And that's not a con, it's a pro. Because it just brings out the depth of it, that it goes even beyond it, just who we are. Yes, we also have Bina and Das. We also have the powers of intellect where we can develop this belief, but essentially, it's the belief in God. And that's why Tanya finishes out the chapter that we find throughout history a fascinating phenomenon. And this was unfortunately, it was tried and proven that you take a Jew who will tell you for 70 years that they are a non-believer, they're non-observant, they're not involved in Judaism. But when you take them and you tell them Judaism, God, or something else, your life is dependent on it. There are many, many, many instances where Jews literally were willing to give up their life for God, for Judaism, even though they perhaps were not living a Jewish life. Where does that come from? Where does it come from for someone to say, I'm Jewish, I'm going to die for it, even though yesterday they were living totally secular life? That's where it comes from. It comes from the chachma that we have within us, that little spark that our forefathers have given us. This can't be explained otherwise. This is what the Tanya says, that it's not something that the great scholars, the great professors will explain to you why it's important to give up your life or your ideals, which we get. Some people will say it's not a life worth living if I don't give it up for my ideals. But when we're talking about something who seemingly doesn't have these ideals, and they're willing to give up their life, oh, that means that there's something greater than a rationale. It's not something that I was living with. I was preaching. If I'm going to preach this, and every day, of course, I'm going to be willing to even give up my life for it. No, these are people who weren't preaching it. On the contrary, perhaps they were preaching against it, but they're willing to give up their life. That's what it is. That's chapter 18. Next week in chapter 19, we'll talk about why does it have to take that? Why is it that we have to go through such a traumatic um, incident for this chachma to be revealed? Why can't we? Why can't the? Why is it the hidden love? Why is it not the revealed love? So we'll talk about that next week. But this is the opening, the first chapter of this idea. That till now we spoke about developing a new love through the contemplation. We develop a new love for God through contemplating on the greatness of God. Chapter 18 says, wait, hold it. There's another method. The other method is tap into a love that's already there. Ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. We are believers, the children of believers, whether we know it or not. It's a subconscious belief that we have within us. If you tap into that, then makes it all easier. Just to conclude with one story, where there was a chassid of the Rebbe Rashab, who was a diamond merchant. And he was a great chassid. And he once came to the Rebbe Rashab, and he notices the way the Rebbe Rashab is really dealing and giving a lot of attention to maybe people he felt that weren't deserving of it. They were from the lower tier chassidim. And this chassid, who was from a higher tier, felt, maybe they're getting too much attention. So he was very open with his Rebbe. He spoke to him. He says, why are you giving so much attention to these people? They can't appreciate your Hasidic discourses. They don't appreciate who you are. They're simple folk. Why are you giving them so much attention? The Rebbe Rashab heard what he said, didn't respond, asking him how's life, how's your family, how's business, and he was a diamond merchant. So he says, "Tell me about the diamonds." He says, as a matter of fact, I have a little pouch with me with some diamonds. Let me show you some diamonds. Sure. He takes out some diamonds. He says, "Oh, this diamond, this is unique in this way. Look at the cut. Look at this. Look at that. Right?" Talking all the diamond language. And the Rebbe Rashab says, "This, I don't understand why this is so expensive. This one actually looks a little nicer. I would actually think this is more." He says, "Yeah, Rebbe, because look, if you look with if you look closely, you'll notice this, you'll notice that." Rebbe Rashab's like, "Yeah, but I don't know." He's kind of giving his opinions, and the chassid is kind of getting a little frustrated until he says, "Rebbe, for diamonds, you have to be a maven. You have to be an expert to understand diamonds." Rebbe Rashab stopped, and he says, "Yeah, for diamonds, you have to be a maven. When you look at diamonds, you have to be a maven." And the chassid got the point. When you look at another Jew, you have to be a maven. Just untrained eye doesn't appreciate a diamond. An untrained eye doesn't appreciate another Jew. You have to be a maven. You have to be able to see deeper and see that beautiful diamond that we have that they have within them. So that is a little bit of chapter 18. I encourage you to read it inside. And wish you a good Shabbos. We should be able to continue next week as we continue to develop this idea in chapter 19. Thank you.